thank you very much, and I'm delighted to be here to be able to speak with you and share some of my views. As has just been stated, California has a large and growing Iranian community, and particularly in Los Angeles, which I believe is the largest Iranian community outside of Iran. Yours is a new organization, founded just 6 months ago. And I understand that Tom Pickering, who I just saw leaving the room, Dr. Hans Blix, and David Albright have just addressed you. And so I'm very pleased to follow them because I very much respect them. For several years, I've been interested in trying to be a constructive force for peace and stability in this difficult part of the world. Now the powder keg in which nations and values conflict and collide. I've watched as the Iraq war continues. Israeli and Palestinian peace remains elusive. Iran begins to exert itself in the region, and Sunni nations grow more and more concerned. There's no question that Iran today, isolated and belligerent, constitutes both a present and future challenge to the stability and security of several concerned nations as well as our own. Last year, the United States indicated its alarm about Iran supplying weapons and tactical support to Shia militias in Iraq, and stated that if this continued, the United States would, quote, seek out and destroy weapons supply networks used by Iranian agents, end quote. Also, Iran's support of terrorist organizations, particularly Hezbollah and Hamas, remain of deep concern and continues unabated. And finally, the government of Iran has had an intransigent hatred of Israel, and its willingness to deny Israel the right to exist remains unacceptable and a major hurdle to peace and security in the region. So it's in this context that we must understand the #1 question of the day. Does Iran seek nuclear weapons, and for what purpose? In November of 2007, the United States intelligence community released a comprehensive assessment on Iran's nuclear program. That report, which is the compilation of all of the intelligence communities, some 15 of the United States, is called the National Intelligence Estimate. It was both an eye-opener and the source of major controversy. The NIA's first conclusion, front and center, was that the intelligence community judges, quote, with high confidence that in the fall of 2003, Tehran halted its nuclear weapons program. This was a clear declaratory statement, and it signified a major shift from the judgments of past intelligence reviews. A footnote in the NIE made clear that a nuclear weapons program has 3 parts. First, the enrichment of fissile material. 2, a weaponization program to make that material into a weapon. And 3, a means to deliver the weapon. The halt refers specifically to the weaponization part. The 2 other parts, the enrichment of fissile materials and the making of a delivery system, remain serious concerns. But equally as clear, the NIE judged, again with high confidence, that until the fall of 2003, Iran was pursuing an illegal covert nuclear weapons program. This was the strongest intelligence statement to date, and it is backed up with evidence in the classified text of the NIE that Iran did, in fact, have a program, and that Iran's leaders in Tehran could turn that program back on at any time. Finally, the NIE made a statement that speaks directly to the main issue of today's discussion: whether and how to approach Iran diplomatically. And it said this, and I quote, "Our assessment that the nuclear program was halted primarily in response to international pressure suggests Iran may be more vulnerable to influence on the issue than we judged previously, end quote. The NIE, in essence, suggests a window of opportunity to begin to engage Iran in discussion, and with the help of European and other allies, to see if Iran can be moved toward positive engagement with the Western world on this vital question, as well as other issues of concern. So this NIE represents the first opening for engagement. The question is, how should we proceed with Iran? I believe we should begin to pursue a robust diplomatic initiative with Iran on all issues and without preconditions. Working with our European allies, the United Nations, and the International Atomic Energy Agency, we should put together a package of carrots and sticks that will serve as a basis for discussion with Iran. The goal of these negotiations should be to convince Iran to, one, permanently abandon any intention to restart a nuclear weapons program. Two, allow International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors full access to all Iranian nuclear facilities and suspected nuclear facilities. Three, comply once again with the additional protocol to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty for intensified inspections by the IAEA. Iran had accepted this protocol in 2003 and suspended compliance in 2005. Four, provide a complete accounting for all past nuclear activities and allow full transparency to international inspectors. Six, cease its support for the terrorist activities of Hamas and Hezbollah worldwide. And finally, promote stability and cease lethal support to militias in Iraq. The key is this: we can recognize that Iran has a right to a peaceful civilian nuclear energy program, but not to nuclear weapons. Offers have been made before and have gone nowhere, but these offers have been presented with preconditions and without the full engagement of the United States. We need a fresh approach and fresh ideas. There are some in the Bush administration who disagree with the diplomatic approach. They see confrontation with Iran as all but inevitable. Now, of course, there's no guarantee that these talks will succeed, but we are sure to fail if we do not at least try. One proposal that deserves, I think, a closer look is one which was described to me by Iran's former ambassador to the United Nations. I traveled twice to New York to spend several hours with him. At the time, some on the Iranian side thought Iranian leadership, namely the supreme leader, might be open to the idea of an on-the-ground, 24/7 international consortium to manage and monitor all aspects of nuclear activity. There was agreement that Iran might agree to this monitoring, as long as there was an openness on the part of the United States to discuss other issues as well. Participants could include the United States, the UK, France, Germany, China, Russia, the United Nations, and the IAEA. The proposal is similar to the one made by Ambassador Lurs, Secretary Pickering, and Mr. Walsh, who spoke to you earlier this afternoon. I very much support and appreciate their efforts and believe the proposal still deserves serious consideration. It could go a long way toward building confidence on both sides. It would allow Iran to enjoy the benefits of peaceful nuclear power as a member of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, while giving confidence to the international community that Iran's nuclear ambitions will not be diverted to a nuclear weapons program. When United States administrations have taken bold diplomatic initiatives in the past, the payoff has been significant. The decision of Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon to engage the People's Republic of China in the early 1970s was visionary. We embraced negotiations with the Soviet Union, even in the darkest days of the Cold War. I believe that an Iranian policy based on a military solution only makes no sense. Iran recently proved helpful in brokering a ceasefire between Prime Minister al-Maliki and Muqtada al-Sadr's Jam militias in Basra. Clearly, a more positive relationship with Iran might be helpful in stabilizing Iraq. Only by talking and bringing to bear the best efforts of diplomacy can real progress be made, and I believe this deeply. The next administration must evaluate anew our nation's approach to this Middle Eastern arena and involve a new approach, one based on robust diplomacy rather than threat of war. The process is likely to be difficult, but the results may well be significant. And one day, just think of it, it could lead to a more stable and peaceful Middle East. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Senator. I have to say that the leadership that you're showing on this issue is so needed. I would agree fully with you that we are in need of fresh ideas and fresh approaches, because the current path, as you pointed out, has not led us to a situation in which many of the challenges that Iran poses, whether it's its own human rights record, which is quite abysmal, whether it is its support for organizations that use violence in the region, or the nuclear issue, we're not really making any headway. So I fully agree with you and very appreciative of the leadership that you've shown on this issue. The Center will join us for a couple of minutes for a Q&A as well.